everyone, and welcome to the Suc-Seeding podcast where we plant the seed you need to succeed.
Today, we are your hosts, Paulina Bosque.
And Patricio Sierra.
Yes, unfortunately, our third host cannot make it today, but he will be here for our next weekend's podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Jesus Salazar.
Howdy, y'all. Howdy.
Thank you.
So we decided to begin this podcast as a way to spread awareness on teenagers' mental health. Because as teenagers in high school, dealing with difficult courses, tons of clubs and sports even, we realized mental health isn't spoken about as openly as it should be. And that's why we decided to begin this campaign in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we thought Jesus Salazar here. Oh, we didn't even let you introduce yourself, did we?
Howdy.
Say your name.
Howdy. I'm Jesus Salazar.
Yeah. And we thought he would be a perfect fit as somebody who can speak openly about mental health and their experience with mental health and why it's important.
And now for our first question, why is mental health important to you? And what is it to you?
Well, I think first answering what mental health is important, right? We can't talk about how important something is before we even know what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I'm different. I don't like drawing the line in the sand that a lot of people like to and saying mental health and physical health are two different things. It almost makes mental health seem like unimportant, irrelevant, right? Well, you didn't get shot. So, if you're sad, it doesn't no, it's not how it works. They're both important to how you feel. If you've got the flu, you're not going to feel great. And if you're not feeling great, you're not going to do great, right? It affects your performance in stuff like athletics, clubs, class. So I think they kind of all tie in together.
Absolutely, yeah, I would agree on that as well because for me, I guess mental health, it's important to you because it perceives how your day is influenced, what you do with your day, what you do with your day and because it's all perception. If you don't feel, like you said, if you don't feel good, you're not going to do good without your day. On a good day, people with bipolar symptoms, on a good day, they'll do so many stuff. They'll you'll do multiple things. You'll clean the whole entire house in one day. You'll talk to your friends that you haven't talked to in months, and you'll post so many things on your social media, and then you'll get up and you'll shower and you'll do your hair and you'll work out and you feel amazing the other day. But then the next day happens, and then it's like you think so many bad thoughts influence your day that you're terrible, you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough, you're not worthy, you shouldn't be here, and it influences your day. You're not going to be able to do as much as you did the day prior, and it's just a very going on cycle. But the thing is that mental health is that it comes with awareness and it comes with help from the other people beside you, and it requires a community, it requires a village for you, for people sometimes to get over it. And so I think that especially with our podcast, in Eagle Pass, we're a small border town community, but the thing is about being a small town community is that we're all here for each other. We all understand the lifestyle that each of us going through. And with that being said, I think it's better for us to, bring awareness about how we're feeling and how we're doing, because again, it helps all of us to know that we are not alone and we are in this together, especially through this even happened throughout COVID. Whenever we are in this together, and then everybody started sharing stories about their COVID experience as well, and and many people lost so many people, and but
yeah, like I wanted to emphasize on the point of there's good days and bad days. And I feel like we as a society, especially teenagers, because we're teenagers and all we are is emotion, we're genuinely highs and lows, we tend to forget that we have good days and bad days. And we can't let our bad days necessarily define the rest of our future. Just because you had a bad day one day doesn't mean the rest of your future is doomed. You can look at the positive aspect and learn from your mistakes and, progress as a person. That's what we're here to do, get better as people. And I also really like the point where you talked about sports, because I think people who do sports athletes, I'm an athlete myself, and I've been since freshman year, before junior high, right? And I feel at times we all kind of as athletes try to fix our mindset to no, I'm meant to be good, I was good back then, why can't I be better now? And I think it's a lot to do with mental health. And so, yeah. Do you want to elaborate on anything?
Yeah, I would also mention, just as you mentioned bipolar disorder, a lot of times we kind of get stuck in this mantra of like mental health is like abnormal psychology, right? There has to be something wrong with you. You have to be depressed, you have to have bipolar disorder, you have to be manic or XYZ. And it's like, no, sometimes you're sad, but that doesn't make you depressed. Sometimes, you're really energetic, but that doesn't mean you have, ADHD or something, right? A lot of mental health is, like you said, it taking a village. It's your mental hygiene, right? It's not going to those extremes and self-diagnosing and going on, WebMD or whatever. But it's also being like, okay, I had a good day. Let me reflect on it. Let me be mindful about it, thoughtful. I had a bad day. Let me be mindful. Let me be thoughtful. Why was it a bad day? Was it in my control? How can I change what I'm doing, my habits, my behavior to better my mental health? Cognitive behavioral, right? But it's also important to kind of recognize that sometimes you're going to have a lot of bad days and they're just going to be strung together and it's going to be real annoying. I like to use the analogy of a coin. You can flip a coin a bunch of times and sometimes, it's 50-50. That's the chance, right? But you'll get heads like 8 times in a row and you're like, what the heck? Like, I need tails, I need to win, $5 or whatever. And it just won't happen. But at the end of the day, after, if you kept flipping that coin for, a year, 10 years, 18, however many, it eventually goes to 50-50, and that's life, right? But we get so strung up on like I just had a terrible week, and, I failed this test, and I have this missing, and then tryouts are, it's very easy, especially for teenagers, to get strung up. Just because a lot of our lives are very
Yes, I do agree with you. Because I think teenagers are perceived to be very selfish creatures. Like at this time, like I know that's a funny word, but it is. Like we're like perceived like we're screaming at our parents, being like, why don't we have like anything to wear? Like why is there no food? Like why is there
my clothes isn't matching today?
Like, did you wash my shirt, please? I need it. It's like, yeah, but like we're perceived to we're perceived as very selfish people because it's like, well, there's so much things that are happening at this time. You're finding out who you are, what you like or don't like. And, some people I know like us, we're going through the stages of, college, and you're thinking about our future and like figuring out what can we do for our future. And it's like, and there's so many steps and there's a lot of things that we're thought to do at this time. We're just thought to have like, oh, what's your career plan? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And a lot of that other stuff that could really, affect us at this time. And it could cause like a lot of anxiety, it would cause a lot of stress, and it could, but it's all building foundation to, I think, the person who you become, because it's at this time where you're finding out yourself and you're finding out what you do and don't like. It's also establishing boundaries. It's establishing what you don't like, and it's establishing I guess just the person who you are to become. And it's like during this tough time it seems rough, but then you'll look back on it and be like, I overcame that, and you learn how to overcome that. And I think that's very important to to just take the good with the bad, and to overcome things. So yeah.
I think it's really important to also acknowledge, we get angry at like our parents or grandparents or like anyone older than us. It's like, oh, you don't understand or whatever. But we don't understand. We overlook it a lot. This is the most stressful part of your life, right? Mm-hmm. You have to worry about high school, clubs, grades, a job if you got one, relationships, and college, and then your career, and then the rest of your life. That's a lot. You'll never have to deal with that again in your life, but it's really important that you deal with it now, and it's really stressful. A lot of times you just kind of blow it off, and you stayed up till 2, well, I stayed up till 3, and we have like this almost competitive nature where we're like, I have it worse than you. Where it's really important to kind of change that social narrative. Because not only does it not matter when you went to no one cares, but it's also really important because you need to acknowledge the full picture, right? Why are you staying up till 3? Well, because you have to get good grades, because if not, you're kicked out of this club, and if you're not in this club, then it looks worse on your resume, and yada yada, and because it's important for college, and because you want to get this job, and understanding, again, like you mentioned, perspective, the perspective you have on not just life, but on events really matters, right? If you get a bad grade, you can super easily get tunnel sighted and just focus on that one bad grade and how you're terrible instead of you're 99 in the class instead, right? I'm reminded of the Einstein with a blackboard where he wrote the multiplication tables. 1 times 9 equals 9, 2 times 9 equals 18.
Oh, yeah.
And he gets to 10 and he writes 99. The whole class makes fun of him and they're like, you're dumb. Like, it's obviously 90, not 99. And he goes, well, notice, I did the other 9 perfectly fine. I messed up once and y'all made fun of me. No one cares when you're right, but when you make a mistake, then everyone points it out, right? But and that's true, but I think more importantly, we're our own worst critics, right? So where everyone else might just go, he messed it up, hey, fix it or whatever. We might be there and be like, oh my God, that was so dumb. How did I make such a dumb mistake? Like, I'm dumb. Like, I'm actually dumb. And you kind of spiral out over something super simple, right? Mm-hmm. It's about the perspective. It's also about the perspective you have of yourself. If you have a perspective that you're really successful or that you're not successful, that affects what you do and how you do it.
Exactly. And with that going on, talking about academics, I would like to go on to the next question, and that would be, how does it affect your day-to-day life, your school life? How, like you were saying, with your school life, how how we're teenagers, we're all sharing the same experiences. And so now I'm asking you, how does it affect your life?
Great question. I think mental health affects everything we do. Very holistic view, right? But if I'm just really not feeling up to it, it is a slog, a struggle to do assignments or to even the basic things, especially if you're over break like we are. You can just very easily bed rot for 2 to 3 weeks and not notice and just be like, oh well, I didn't feel well today. I think it's important, we need to acknowledge that we're stressed, and we need to acknowledge that what we're going through is hard, but we also need to promote almost discomfort sometimes, because it's very easy to talk about mental health and then go into this arena of sugarcoating and being nice. That's not what mental hygiene is, right?
Yeah.
Mental health is holistic, long-term, right? So it's important that you not just be comfortable right now, but that you're, in 10 years, you're in a better place than you are now. And the only way you can do that the only way you can do that ever is growth. And growth is often uncomfortable, right? Maybe you want to be a doctor, but you hate physics or you hate chemistry. Well, it's worth taking a harder chemistry course to learn more and get there, because once you're in college, it'll be easier or whatever. Is it going to be hard? Absolutely. Are you going to hate it? Absolutely. Are there going to be days where you want to quit? Absolutely. But you can't, because you know that in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, 4 years, 5, whatever, you're going to thank yourself and you're going to say, you know what? I did a hard thing and I did a good thing and it helped me, right? Instead of stressing about it now in college and I have to worry about adulting and taxes and work and jobs and being in a city I've never been in before, or being in rural and I've never been in rural before, I don't have to worry about my chemistry class, and everybody else does. And I can help other people because I know, it's really important to challenge yourself. So I'd say it's a challenge sometimes to be like, I need to do my physics or, whatever. But at the end of the day, I like that mentality of challenge yourself, of try, of always keep pushing forward no matter what. There's that quote, If you can't run, if you can't walk, then crawl. But if you can't crawl, then do whatever you need to. But get to the finish line, right?
David Goggins. But yes, so going on with that, for you, Jesus, I know that you are very academically strong, and yes, I know that you're a very academically strong person, and ever since your freshman year, I've known of you, and so with that being said, so would you think that for mental health for you, is there any specific moment, or is there any specific time where you felt that maybe, like, I know that you were perceived as a very high intelligent person, but is there any moment where you felt you weren't able to, I guess, uptake that image or be that image for other people, or the leadership position?
Again, another great question. And that's it. Leadership qualifier, important qualifier in a leadership position.
He's in 10 clubs that we can't even name anymore. Exactly. And then also literally state champion in some Hispanic institute.
NHI. We don't really talk about NHI. No.
He has his pin right now.
No. What's it called? I think that's such a great question. Yeah. Leadership positions make everything 10 times harder, right? And it's important. Hard things are, important. If man never tried to tear down a bajillion blades of grass and make rope, we'd never get ships, we'd never get anywhere, and we'd still be in a cave or whatever, right? So hard, tedious, annoying things are sometimes really, really good for us. Sometimes they just make us really, really sad inside, and it's hard because it's a slog. It's important we keep doing it. I'll always promote leadership positions because they're super important, not just to your academic or professional development, right? They don't just make your resume look good. They make you into a better person because you have more experience as a person, right? I think that's the great benefit of leadership positions. They remove this schema we have as, we're students. You're a student, I'm a student, you're a student. And it takes us out and it says, no, you're a human being, on top of everything else. And if you only have one, sometimes it's hard to realize that, right? Because you'll just create a different schema for yourself. I'm a student and I'm a, student government officer. It's not, you're not drawing 100% of what you can from a leadership position. If you have multiple, it's a lot harder, but because of that, it's a lot easier to realize, I'm not just honor society officer or a student government officer or a recruiter, all this stuff. I'm somebody else entirely, right? Because it's really easy to switch between one or two hats and go, I'm a student and then I'm an athlete. I'm a student and now I'm an athlete. Or, you combine them and I'm a student athlete now or whatever. But when you're racing, you're not thinking about your grades. When you're during your bio exam, you don't care about your times. You're just trying to, A, B, A, B, A, you're doing whatever you need to, right?
You're surviving
exactly.
At that point.
Track is the last thing on your mind, right? So being in a leadership position kind of cranks everything up to 10. Because if you really, if you
want to create that leadership position, you want to create, uphold that level of leadership and, because leadership is also, it's something that, people look up to you and, you have to hold certain expectations and, you're expected to act and behave and do well on certain things. And yeah, so with that being said, I would like to also ask you again, so how do you feel in any of your leadership positions? Did you ever feel that you couldn't uphold that image of being a leader for other people? Or was there any moment at the time where that felt difficult for you, to uphold that image?
So again, absolutely. Leadership positions require humanity, and sometimes it's really hard to demonstrate to people. Number one example that comes to mind is NHI. It's always NHI. It was the LDZ.
Where's from my sponsors?
Sponsored by.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored, please.
Not at all.
Not at all.
No, next episode. What's it called? The LDZ. I did a terrible job running the primaries because it was really not desperate, but disparate, separated. there's like a bajillion things going on, 10 people with huge opinions, very strong opinions, wanting to do the thing their own way, and, well, no, we should do the Senate primaries this way, no, the judicial primaries should be done by this, because you're supposed to do it. Really in the weeds, really technical, really tedious, and we had like 45 minutes to do it. So to elect like 40 senators and 10 Supreme Court justices and like 20 attorneys. So it wasn't just like, plenty of time. But no, it was like,
Yeah, to like make a whole country.
Stress cranked up to 210%, right? Okay. And I didn't do a good job. Period. End of story. Like, I did a bad job. I should have done a better job managing people. And so 45 minutes is up. So, governor candidate for this party, do you have your candidates? Being in that leadership position requires responsibility and accountability, right? Winston Churchill's favorite thing, democracy is how you choose who gets the blame, right? That's a really pessimistic way of looking at it, but sometimes it can really feel like it. I have to be the one that goes up there and goes, Madam Secretary of State, my party requests, I think I said 3 more minutes. We just need to tidy up the loose ends or whatever. Okay, it takes like 8 minutes for me to finish. And I was on the stage writing the names and the whatever. Here we go. And then as a purely functionary thing, they say, do you certify that these elections are free and fair? And someone objects. No, they were rushed, they were this, they were that. So you have to redo all of them. And, no one's going to go, well, it's because, party leadership wasn't doing great. Or, I think we all need to step up. No one says that. That's not a thing that happens. No one's like, you know what? I need to take account for myself. That doesn't happen. It's your fault. You're not doing a good job, right? So this is in a room of 250 people, right? I'm, NHI legacy, right? So these are 250 peers, people I know very well. They're, that I respect, that they respect me. And they're seeing me get pummeled again and again. Well, I need more time. Excuse me, ma'am, I need more time. Okay, we're done. Oh, they're not fair. You need to do them again. You don't have that much time. Keep doing them. And, and you're trying to manage people on top of that, right? So,
yeah.
Hey, the judicial candidates, you can only have a couple seconds to make your pitch because we're really going to get this done. And so as I was saying, they'll completely ignore you, etc. Part of being in leadership is acknowledging your own limits, right? As terrible as it feels to have to stand there and take it, deep down, it's not your fault, right? I have no, control. I can't, muzzle the candidates and be like, you're done talking, next, right? Can't do that. So part of it is just being able to handle the punches, roll with them, deal with them. What's next, right? So being able not to be backlogged with this anxiety and blame and being like, oh, it was my fault. I should have done it better. What's next? Life moves too fast. School moves too fast, especially, as teenagers, for you to get caught up on these little mistakes. You learn from them. I should do this better. I should have better managed people. What's next? What's next on the agenda?
Yeah, it's all about rolling with the punches almost, and taking the good with the bad, because again, it's understanding that we're also human, and we're also human. We make mistakes, and we're not perfect, and we're not perfect, and but we try. But the thing is that we don't, just because we're not perfect, is that we don't stop trying to be, and we don't stop trying. And it's not that we don't stop trying to be, but it's just more that we just don't stop trying, period. Because again, we make mistakes, but it's also understand that with mistakes, you learn things from them, and you learn sometimes not to do them again, or you learn better from them, and you learn about, what happens in those certain situations. And maybe you could also, helping, like, again, with like mental health and mental health awareness, it's about helping others. It's about helping others as well. Once you're feeling better about yourself, you're able to help others. You're able to help others and, feel better about themselves as well. So again, I think it's taking the good with the bad, because again, we're human, and we all go through so many circumstances, so many things in our life, and it just happens, and just taking the good with the bad. So as long as we can learn from those mistakes, and we could help out another person who's going through a similar situation, and I think it just helps. I think it just helps.
Yeah.
I think that's our message I want to get out.
And I really wanted to emphasize on your point about being perfect. I feel like it's something that you might not even be consciously thinking about it, but it's back there in your brain. You will make decisions because you want to seem perfect, but sometimes I feel like you need to realize you're a human being at the end of the day, and it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail an exam. It's okay to have missings. You are a person at the end of the day. Your mental health is truly your priority. If you're not doing well mentally, I feel like you're just not going to be doing well in general. Your work will slack. Everything will slack. Let's say you have a job, you will begin slacking in that. Your room will become a mess. Your sports, you're just not going to be as good as you once were. And I feel like we all have to accept that we're not perfect people, and we never will be, but we can do our best, and that's what matters.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I do want to bring up, kind of tie it back to perspective, right? A lot of perspective is the identity we give ourselves, right? A student athlete. So when we make mistakes, it's really easy to get caught up in them, not because the mistakes are world-ending, or you press the big red button, the world's gonna end, or whatever, but because they mess with your concept of identity, right? Because if you get bad run time, you're a bad athlete. That's your identity, right? Mm-hmm. So it really messes. I'm not an athlete. I've always been a runner. I've always been in track. I can't. I'm not. That's not me anymore. Yeah. So you kind of spiral out, and you're like, who am I? I've always been an honor roll student. I failed. I got my first B or whatever. I don't get honor roll this year. Oh my goodness. It's not me anymore. I'm changed. What's happening. Mm-hmm. It's really easy to spiral out. But that's why I think leadership positions or jobs are really, just experiencing life is so important, because you're able to separate that identity from you as a person, right? Mm-hmm. When you're in school, people look at you as a student. When you're with family, people are going to view you as family. When you're an officer at the club, you're viewed as part of the club. If you're working a job, you're viewed as part of your job or whatever. Everyone's going to see you differently, right? And it's really easy to get caught up in how other people view you, but good mental hygiene dictates the most important thing is how you view yourself, right? When you get home and look in the mirror, who's staring back? It's not a student, it's not an athlete, it's you, right? So it's really important to because a lot of the when I say caught up, I mean you internalize it, right? Definitely. I failed this test, not because it was a hard test, but because I'm a bad student and I can't learn and I can't pay attention. You start stapling all these faults to you, instead of going, well, you know what? I had a really tough week. I couldn't study. There's a bajillion things happening. I just need to retake it, or I need to get better time management. I made a mistake. I need to learn from it. Roll with the punches. Move on. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like to bring up, speaking about whenever you mentioned about track and about not getting certain run times, and, but also, being a student as well and not getting perfect grades in tests, I want to speak on on a personal experience. So for my first 2 years of high school, I did track. I did track and cross country. I loved the sport. I loved the sport. It was my life. My runs were, I think everything with me, because it was running meant a lot to me because it was something I grew up doing with my dad, whether it was like for Thanksgiving, a turkey trot, for like Christmas. Like it's a really personal thing with me and my family, because my dad is also a track runner, so he got me into all of that. But so yeah, so I was doing running for around 2 years of my high school career, and then but then during this time, I know it got really confusing whenever. But I think I got really mixed up because I became to get obsessed with it. And I remember there were certain times where we would do time trials, and I'll be like, oh, well, I ran like 20 miles this week, and I feel like, and I'm like, had the most mileage, like out of all the girls. I feel like I could really like do this, or I can make varsity, which I feel like is another like stigmatism, where it's like, if you're in a sport and you're not in varsity, are you really in your sport? Or like, are you
yes,
really doing,
bro, yes.
Are you really like doing that? Yes. Or like, if you didn't PR and you're next to me, like if you're not doing that in the sport, are you even in it? It's like, but yes, you are. Like, yes, you are. But,
you are.
Yeah. And, yeah, so for me personally, that was me. I never really advanced, particularly I always stayed in a certain level. And the thing is, I tried my best, and I tried my best. And there were like days where I'll be like, no, like I could only eat, like I'll like limit to like what I would eat, and I would limit to like, limit to what I eat, to like how much I worked out that day, and and all of that sort of stuff. So basically going on with these first 2 years of my life, I was obsessed with running. I took it as more as just like, I have to be good in this, because who am I without it? Who am I without it? Because I don't know who I am without running. And yeah, so basically during this time I didn't know anything else other than that. And it's like funny. Okay, for the personal people who know what happened, I know it seems like very little, but I went through like a mini injury where I broke my pinky. Shout out. But the way how I would describe this moment is that it was a very blessing in disguise. It was during a time trial, and and so then I tripped, and then I fell into myself, and then and then my pinky broke, and because of that, it was like, I went to Piedras, and they gave me a whole cast. Like, who gets a whole cast for a freaking broken finger? I'm like, what the heck? And they didn't even have like anesthesia for it too. Like, they literally like had to like pull it out straight over there as well, and it was just like, oh, okay.
Like every bone, like
like literally, it was like crumbled into like literally a candy cane. Merry Christmas.
Like Christmas episode.
This episode. So basically, and they like freaking like made us all straight, and then like I put it on the cast, and I was just like, well, then what do I do now? And then like for the whole entire night, I was crying. I was told my mom, it's just like, well, then who am I without this? I didn't know. I was in this, time trial. I did everything perfect. I ran my certain mileage for that week. I did my Sunday long run, which is very hated within the running. Sunday long run is actually half a marathon.
Like literally.
Like literally 13 miles. It's like, oh, okay. So you're just like expected to do that like right after church. And it's like, okay. And so basically, and I did everything perfect. But then during this time, it was like a week that it took off. It was like a reading which it took off, and it was a very confusing, and it was a very confusing week, because I remember looking back at myself, and I was just like, who am I? Like, the most biggest thing that like meant a lot to me was just taken away from me, and I felt like God betrayed me, because I like literally blamed God, because I was just like, God, like, I've been trying so hard in this, and like all of the effort that I did for this, all the tears, all like the starving, I even like missed out on like missing assignments, because it's like, oh, like I need to get like this much rest for me to have like this amount of performance, this good of performance. I was just like, what's up? And but then the more I reflect back on that, and the more I would like, and then I took that season off, and whenever I took that season off, I was also taking like, I guess like more harder courses, which is pre-AP Algebra 2 Miss King, shout out. And I was taking like more harder courses, and so I got to get more in touch with my academic life as well. And so that, I guess, I kind of reflected like off of like my high performance into sports into my high performance in academics, and that's whenever I started to actually like get better, like, and get better with my grades and like actually like pay attention more. So I just reflected that back onto my academics, and it was, again, if I was thought that like, well, if I can't run, then I might as well focus on school. And so that's what I did for a long time up until my junior year, whenever I guess I kind of had a breaking point my junior year, because it was my, like, for me, I perceived it as like, it's my last year. It's your last year that colleges are going to see your grades. It's the last year that it's the last year the colleges are going to see your grades, and you know, it's
Junior year is hard.
yeah, it's
hard.
very
It's
hard.
very-
You're dealing with like SAT scores. You're dealing
Yes.
like with like AP, your first AP exam sometimes, and
A lot of
it's,
stuff.
yeah, very much.
Junior year is hard. Moral of the story.
Shout out,
Yes.
yeah, and a podcast. No.
Junior here. And I feel like sometimes we tend to overlook stuff, but family does really contribute to our mental health. A healthy like family bond will really help you because you feel secure in your home or wherever you might be. I feel like a lot of the times we tend to push family away because, oh, I have to study for this exam, so I'm so sorry I cannot go out with y'all to have dinner tonight, or I'm sorry, like, I won't be able to do this, like, because I have to do this and it's really important. And I get that all of that is important, but we all have to make time for our family, because I feel like we tend to forget that our time here is limited, and family is just important, as I previously mentioned, for your mental health. Because if you don't have like a healthy family bond, I feel like stuff tends to be harder. It may feel harder, but it's not harder. And just family support doesn't even necessarily have to be a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, etc. It can be your friend, it can be your grandparents, it can be your aunts, your uncles. These people help you feel better and help take the weight. There's this quote that I heard and I really liked it. It was like, it goes something like, when you tell someone your problem, it's half a problem, and whenever you tell someone a joy, it's double the joy. And I just, it really resonated with me, and I feel like that's such a quote that we should all live by. Sometimes you may not want to share your problems that are going on, but sometimes sharing it will help you feel better about yourself, because this person, maybe you just want them to understand what you're going through. Maybe you want their advice, but either way, knowing that somebody's listening to you just helps you immediately feel better and know that you're not alone.
Because even the comfort of knowing that you're not alone, it allows you to overcome that stuff. Because it allows you that, like, my experience is able to be overcome, and you know, I'm able to do this. It is possible for me to do this, and then, again, it opens possibility, because I know for me, like, personally, I felt that, like, well, this is it in my life. Like, if I already gave up on my academics, I already gave up on my athleticism, and then this is it. But then I realized that, like, well, people also live normal lives too, you know what I mean? Like, and people also live normal lives too, and I'm not the first person to go over this. And then that's whenever I shared, and because of family, I had my siblings that also went through the same things as well. Shout out baby Leo if you're listening to this.
What's up, Leo?
What's up, Leo? What's good with you? Yeah, and me and Leo were very shared over this experience, and he was there for me, and I was there for him as well. And I had like a very good environment that helped me to overcome things, and know that, like, it is possible for me to overcome this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, everything will be okay.
Everything will be okay, definitely.
I want to point out, all of us started with a broken pinky. I think it is something important to mention, right? You blessings in disguise. Right?
Yes.
That's such a huge thing. Life, you know, so many times it feels like you're on stage performing, and life is just like throwing tomatoes, you know, rotten vegetables at you, and you're trying to catch as many of them without getting hit, right? It is inevitable that you're not going to catch everything. You cannot catch everything. That is not something that, you know, any human in the history of ever has ever done, right? It's just not possible, right?
Unless you're an acrobat.
Well, I mean, even then, if you get good aim or whatever, you know, right? But like, it's hard.
Because
Like,
he's a psychic, actually.
but like, no, like, it is genuinely hard, and it's important not to focus right? It's important to have like a positive, optimistic outlook on life as well, right? So it's not just like, oh, I dropped a zucchini or something. It's, okay, well, instead of that gross zucchini, I got an apple. I like apples. I can work with this, right? A lot of times we, especially as teenagers, because they scream at us constantly, right? Structure your life. What are you going to do? Where are you going to be in 10 years, 40 years? What's your major? What's your job? What's your whatever? So we feel very, not necessarily regimented, but we feel very focused on like this path that we draw for ourselves, which is important and it's good. And it's important to care about the future, right? It's not just like, what are you doing tomorrow? Oh, who knows? What do you want to be? Oh, like, no, it's important. It's important to try and to get there, right? But it's also important to acknowledge, like, life comes at you, right? You don't know necessarily what's going to happen. Life events are just going to happen. You can't predict it. No one can. If you're into tarot cards or mysticism or whatever, it feels like a nice escape because it gives you certainty. It gives you security, right? The ultimate fear is fear of the unknown, which is why talking about college and jobs or whatever is so scary, because you don't know, right? You have never had a job interview. You've never been to college. You don't know what it's like, right? So it can feel very scary when you've structured everything. You just built your Jenga tower, and then life comes in here poking out different things. And sometimes it'll poke out pegs and it'll stay standing, right? But sometimes it pokes stuff out and it falls over. And you need to put it back together, right? And maybe it's not going to be the same thing, right? It's not going to look the exact same. The exact same pegs aren't going to go the exact same places. But that's not what matters, right? If you're baking a cake and you're focusing on making it look exactly like what it looks like in the box, you're not doing it right. If you're trying to make a burger or a recipe and you're trying to make it exactly what it looks like on BuzzFeed or wherever, you're doing it wrong. You should focus on how it tastes, on the holistic, the real elements that matter, right? So when we focus on trying to follow this set path that we set out for ourselves, we're kind of doing ourselves a disservice, right? Not in making it and not in trying to follow it, but in trying to follow it strictly and only follow this. We have to acknowledge, sometimes life comes in with a wrecking ball. Life happens. That doesn't mean, I was meant to be a doctor. I was meant to be an athlete. I was meant to be a president or an actor or a surgeon. No, life comes at you, That didn't happen, right? You were never president, or you were never a surgeon, or you're never an actor. Those things never happened. That's what you wanted then, right? When I was a little kid, I wanted a bunch of toys, right? Now I don't care about that. What's next, right? You need to roll with the punches and constantly move on. Like you mentioned, a lot of that is having family, having a support structure, right? Because it is so much more helpful. Not just it's calming, number one, right? Because it's even just being a family and having, even just someone to okay, not focusing on school, not focusing, we're not talking about any of that. This is something else. Because my life is other than being a student, other than being an athlete, It's not just separating those identities, but it's also, they can be genuinely helpful. Oh, yeah, I'm in college. I can talk to you about college. Oh, I applied to college. I can talk to you about applying to college. Oh, I have a job. I can talk to you about, balancing the stress of school and work and clubs or whatever, right? That's the use in having that support structure. And a lot of times it can be really stressful because you also have to help them, right? It's not just let me be here, sit on this nice couch, you take your notes, or, it has to be a back and forth, right? Which is how you grow as a person. Sometimes that other person is going to go through hard times and it's going to be I never went through it. I don't know how to help you. I'm going to advise you as best I can and hope that it's good advice, right? you're on TikTok or if you're on Reels, you'll see a bajillion memes about people being single and giving relationship advice. It's that, right? I've never had a job. I can give you advice. Hopefully it works. I've never been to college, but I can talk to you about it, Well, you should focus on, whatever. If they take it 100% with no grain of salt, that's their thing, but you're trying to help, right? That's the beauty of having a support structure around you. Or some people call it a safety net, right? Yeah. Because you're rock climbing. You're trying to get up to that peak, and every so often you're going to slip, or life is going to throw something at you, and you're going to fall down. But you have someone to catch you at the bottom, right?
Pick you back up.
Exactly. And you climb right back up, and you build that Jenga tower again.
I really like that analogy, the Jenga tower one.
I
just have to say it right now.
I was dude, Jesus is human. He can think of
wow, dang, that's really good. Yeah. So what's something that helps you feel better when you feel stressed or are in moments of you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's one pearl that's perfect. You just need to do it constantly and always view it. And it's tying back, right? Perspective, right? Kind of taking yourself out of that moment and going, okay, how does this actually affect me, right? Because if you're, doing a Kahoot or a Quizlet or something, you're getting wrong, and you can get really locked into that tunnel vision. If you're in class and your teacher's hey, you failed this, or whatever, you can get really tunnel vision and be oh my God, and you're sitting in the corner of that classroom having a mini mental breakdown, trying to have not other people not notice, right? But it's important to be able to take yourself out of those moments, right? Focus a lot on sadness. It's also anger, when you get upset or frustrated, because we have a lot of the Thanksgiving, right?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, if someone
happy belated Thanksgiving
from Suc-Seeding.
Just Thanksgiving, guys. What's it called? If you're, in a very stressful situation, it'd be very easy to get angry and get out of control. But it's important, especially with certain words, almost red button words. You can get stereotypes about people, and they're elitist, so they're always going to say this stuff, and that's how they think of us, and blah, blah, blah. Or they're old-fashioned. They always think that there's no change. Take yourself out of those moments, right? Crying in the corner of a classroom, wanting to cry at the Thanksgiving dinner table, right? And go, does this matter? How does it affect me? How does it affect me holistically, right? Because in that moment, you're going to be oh, well, that's easy. I feel bad. That's how it affects me, right? Yeah. But, you need to really analyze it and go, okay, I got one bad grade in this class. I'm doing fine in this class. Otherwise, I'm doing fine in my other classes. I'm fine. This teacher drops test grades. I'm fine, or whatever, right? I have missings. I need to learn them. I know the material. I did good on the test. They're not going to take me that long. I'll do them. I don't have to worry about, Because a lot of how we get stressed is, again, by, getting caught up. I say that a lot, right? The image that comes to mind is, when you're fishing, and you have a net, and you have a hook, and it gets all tangled up. The more you try and unravel it, the more tangled it gets. It's kind of that feeling, because the more you think about it, the more you get, strung up on it. And you keep going back, you keep thinking about it, and it, stays there. It's in the back of your mind. Had a little squirrel screaming at you. You did bad on this test, or whatever.
Yep. Squirrel screaming at you?
I do. Yes. I'm an animal lover. No. But, it's really easy to get strung up on stuff. And it's important to be able to take yourself out and go no, I'm fine. I'm actually fine. Because
it's
X,
just a
Y,
moment.
Z. Exactly. It's being able to, we're all emotion, right? So it's very easy to just let emotion do all the thinking and drag us to whatever terrible emotional state we want. We a runaway. It's almost like a chain reaction, right? It's cognitive, right? It's how you think about the stress. If you're this terrible thing just happened to me. It's not that deep, whatever. Then you're going to be fine. Are you going to learn 100% from it? Maybe not, right? But it depends on how deeply you want to care and get strung up on it, right? If it's something terrible that happens to you, you need to be mindful, you need to be thoughtful, you need to really think about it. You should always be mindful, thoughtful, take yourself out and, wow, that really happened. What's next? What do I do? Etc. It's also important to be like, okay, I just failed a test. What's next, right? Because if you stay strung up on it, your stress is going to cause yourself more stress, right? It's that chain reaction, that loop, that vicious cycle. Because if you're stressed,
you cannot like do the simple things in your life. Like if you're stressed about like your like one of your tests, and then it's like, oh well, like I cannot eat until I'm done studying for this test, or like I cannot like you know.
Like with missings, right? Oh my god, I have so many missings. I have to take a break. I'm so stressed.
Yeah.
Just do the missings. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, you'll survive and you'll be fine.
Yes, it's all just like a moment in life. It's all life is just a bunch of moments. You know what I mean? And it's not. And it's all just short term, and it's better to think of, I guess, like what you're trying to say is that it's better to think of things in the long term in life. This is just a one test. You're going to have so many of them afterwards, and
Wait for college.
oh no, and then there's gonna be so many more in your other life that, and it's all just again learning from them as well, and learning to take the good things with the bag and just roll the punches, because that's what life is, and it's just better to, I guess, like maintain your sanity to think that this is just for right now. This is just for right now. It's not forever. And I think that's something that's very important to take with that.
And like I feel like there's really good ways to cope with all this stress and anxiety that you feel. Mm-hmm. And like one of my favorite ways to do this is running. I like I kid you not, I will go and run miles because I may not be doing cross country. I may be a sprinter.
Not anymore, guys.
But I feel like running really is like such a therapeutic thing whenever you're doing it just to run. Like whenever, like I kid you not, yesterday I ran to the gym and I just decided to run because the weather was like, it was kind of chilly. And I wasn't expecting it.
But it was like a nice chilly.
Yeah, it felt nice. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
So I put on a beanie, I changed, and I told my mom, hey, I'm going to go run. And she was like, okay. And I was
always telling
running,
your mom to go, I'm going to go run.
And you just put your headphones on, or if you don't have headphones, you can use your phone. Track your runs always. Hashtag Strava. Not sponsored.
If you didn't Strava, it didn't happen.
Exactly. I always forget a Strava, but anyway.
I know, me too.
So then you just pull up a song that you want to like listen to that you feel like understands your situation. And I feel like you can run to that and just process your thoughts and your emotions while running. And so like you're physically active. So you're like getting that out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like almost like an explosion feeling. Okay, in the longer runs, no, not really. But I guess like with like sprinting as well, I can like relate. Is that because like whenever you're sprinting, it's like you're letting out like all that emotion through, and your mind becomes clear. You're not thinking about all the things in your life. You're not thinking about a test. You're not thinking about like oh, what is like so and so thinking about me, or like what is, or like what am I going to be doing later today, like what else do I have to do. It's like you're just running to run, and you're finishing that run, and it allows you to clear out your mind and flush out all those nasty thoughts in your head. And it's like, and it allows you to be there, I guess, present in the moment.
Yeah, physical activity is so important. I could not emphasize this enough. I think grades are just as important as physical health and your mental health, obviously. But I think they're all tied together. I think it's literally woven together. Like, I was going to say like this right here, but that was like factory made more than likely. But like it all goes together. And I feel like we all need to like just take care of ourselves. I feel like the most important thing, and I hope you're taking this away from this podcast and hearing our experiences, is to take care of yourself and know your limits, understand your limits, grow with yourself, accept your mistakes and learn from them, and just grow as a person. Mm-hmm. What are your ways of like coping?
One of mine was running as well. I used to go on runs a lot of the times because I had a lot of nasty thoughts. And I used to use those, like my runs as like a way, like I just said, whenever you're running, you're flushing out everything. You're flushing out everything else. You're flushing out like your nasty thoughts, like I'm not good enough. What else can I do to help this out? It's like, and it just allows you to like quiet your mind. And another way I like to I guess like cope, I guess, or like like keep my sanity is that I have an escape place, I guess, almost in my house. I know that, you know, this is for everybody, this place is for everybody, but for me, my mom has this she has this like table, and it's like worship table where we always have like a candle lit on, the candle lit on. It has like with the Bible and everything, and it's just for me personally, that's a place where I like to, you know, I guess take the time to, I guess, reflect on my life and also thank my creator that like I'm here today, and I'm here today because of him, and everything is in his power, and everything's already planned out in my life already. And for me, that's my escape, knowing that my life is already planned out for me, and my life is already planned out for me, plans for good, plans for fortitude and not evil, not destruction. And for me personally, that gives me comfort. For me personally, gives me comfort because it gives me an escape place to get away from all these little things in life that are just temporary, and allows me to think of things in the big picture, and allows me to think long term, that like I'm not from this world, and my plan is already made out for me, and you know, for good things. So yeah, that's my.
And if you want an escape room like hers, but you don't
an
have
escape
one,
room for making a maze, you have to talk to us.
if you want just
How to get out?
a place you can go to, we learned this in AP psychology. Actually, you can just like meditate and like visualize just a place that you feel comfortable and safe, and you can go to this place whenever you feel stressed. Hashtag AP Psych, take it. It's
Yeah,
a really informative class.
Yes, yes. Shout out Ms. Vasquez.
Honestly, you're such a good teacher.
Love you, Ms. Vasquez. She's not gonna be watching this. But yeah, and you know, yeah. But another thing important with this place, I know, is to also separate your places from what you're supposed to be doing. I would recommend that you should that like find a place for you to do certain things so you correlate, I guess, like your memories and your feelings towards things. For me, I have a study candle. I have like a specific scent, like until like which, you know, whenever that I need to, like helps me, like allow me to focus. It's like an aromatherapy scent, and it allows me to, I guess, like focus and correlate my mind into, I guess, like the I don't want to use Gen Z terms, but locking in. Like, I hate that word because it's like a jinx word. But yeah, like, yeah, and it allows me to, like, I guess, like, get into that mindset, you know, working almost. But then, like, and also in the same time, it's like I also, again, like I said, like I have I don't have a temple. Like I forget like what it's called, but I have like my own place, like my mom has, where it's like purely like for worship, and it's purely for, you know, pretty for worship, pretty for like escape place, and you know, that's for me, comfort, insanity, exactly. And yeah, then, you know, we have the kitchen for like eating, and then we have a living room for relaxing, spending time with family. It's very important to correlate those different places, not get them mixed up, because then I think it leads you to be more confused, and it kind of, you know, it leads you to be very confused, because then it's like, exactly, like if your like desk is also where you know, watch TV, or you know, it's also where you watch TV, or where you eat, and then also where you work, it's like you're like, it allows you to be more like, I guess, like confused almost, because it's like, well, because it's like you're mixed up on so many emotions. It's just like it allows you to be very confused and not very mixed up with that. Yeah,
like separating your environments.
On top of environments, it's also like what you wear. If you're in pajamas, pajamas, I cannot do work. Like, it's not.
He's in 3 a.m. with a fusu.
Guys, all my physics homework is turned in while I'm in pajamas. Like, I literally, like, my teacher requires us to take photos of our work. Best believe she can see my pajamas. Ms. Byrne, if you want to see it.
Sure. Shout out.
I think it's also important to note that, like from personal experience, different things work for different people.
Right?
Yeah.
So
extreme emphasis on that.
And some people get like really hung up on it, and I don't know, they like lose their minds. Like, well, it doesn't work for me, so it's never gonna work. Like, no. Like, that doesn't mean like you're, you know, forsaken. Like, you're never gonna be a happy. Like, no, it means you need to find what works for you, right? Like, you're not. There's not one shoe size. There's not one size fits all for like mental hygiene. All have different lives. All have different, you know, stuff. I think, like, regardless, having a hobby is like super, super, super important. I think having a hobby, I think there's like 2 types. There's one like takes you out and it forces you to be mindful and gives you perspective, and there's one that can like distract you. like, to give me perspective, I like writing. I'm a huge fan of writing.
Wait, pause. Do you journal, Sis?
I do journal. I haven't journaled in
He
like
has
a year.
mind. His thoughts are paused.
But yeah, like journaling, making a lot of stuff is also like ritualizing it, right? So having your own little candle, having your own, whenever I journal, I'm only going to do this, or I turn off, my phone, my whatever, and then I just write or whatever, or I, do whatever. If you have LED lights, change your LED light, whatever, right? Yeah, you make a whole little show of it because it gets you in like the zone for
In the mindset.
Exactly, right? To distract, I think distracting is super useful, like running, right? Because when you're running, you're going, I have a terrible stitch. I just need to, finish this run or whatever.
You just need to finish, go to the finish line.
On that, I feel like physical exercise and just activity in general proves to yourself that you are capable of doing the hard things, because while you're running these miles, it's not like I'm having the time of my life necessarily. I mean, I am really enjoying it. I'm not saying I hate it, but you're pushing your limits and you're proving to yourself you're capable of pushing your limits and succeeding while pushing your limits.
Oh, definitely.
But continue your point.
Back to a regularly scheduled program.
Shout out endorphins.
Running high, right? Like running is also great. Like it's distracting. The way I distract myself is woodworking. I have a lathe. I'm a human being.
He's a carpenter. Jesus the carpenter.
Yes. I think a lot of life can, like you said, can feel very destructive. And sometimes it's good to get the energy out. Like you have what are they called? Anger rooms, whatever.
Oh,
rage
rooms.
Rage rooms. There you go.
I've wanted one.
Yeah, and like
Wish we had one.
like you mentioned, getting that energy out physically is super important. But I think there's like a special joy in creation, in being able to like make a stuffed animal or make a letter opener, whatever you're gonna, a pen, paperweight, whatever. Being able to take that energy and put it into something positive that you have later, I think is, it's something very special. Because it like stores that moment where you've taken, the negativity in your life and you've turned it into something positive, right? And you have it there, worst day of my life, whatever, and I made this chess piece.
You make something beautiful out of something that...
Exactly. I think that's something really special. And again, it's different for everybody. Some people are going to I hate making stuff. It's such a pain in the butt. I prefer to break stuff. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Whatever floats your boat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever works.
So to end off with our last question, what's a piece of advice that you would be willing to share?
One sentence. Don't believe everything you think.
That's nice. Could you elaborate on that?
I feel, again, you get caught up, we get like super strung up on stuff. Don't believe everything you think, right? If you think the world's ending, probably isn't. You're just being Chicken Little. Wait, go to sleep, take a nap, have a meal. You'll wake up and be like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I was being dramatic. Don't believe everything you think.
Oh, that's nice.
Honestly, yeah, like sometimes you just need to step back, perspective. But there's been times where like I get home and it's a Friday and it's like I barely slept all week because I had this one exam and I truly wanted to ace it, right? And I get home and I'm so exhausted and life feels like it's on top of me. All I need is a nap and I feel way better afterwards.
Yeah, like again, it's like taking like things out of in perspective, and it's just like, yeah, it was just a moment. It really is just a moment.
Life is full of moments.
It is. Yeah.
How about you? Do you have any advice?
I would say take the good with the bad. It's, it's all learning stuff, and we're all humans, and we're all here together, and we're all experiencing the same thing. This is all our first time in life. And this is all our first time in life, and I think it's important to be easy on ourselves and just to think, be easy on ourselves and not blame you or blame God or anything else. Just think like it happens. Just take the good with the bad, roll with the punches, and know that you are worthy and know that you are able to overcome it. You are able to do anything you want to do. I would like to share that advice.
I love that. You guys keep saying roll with the punches, and I have like never heard
Rocky.
that. Dude, is it in the Rocky movies? Bro, I have not watched them. Like, I love that metaphor. Roll with the punches.
Title it.
Roll with the punches.
That's how it happens, guys.
Thumbnail.
That's
Brains right here. And then my advice, it's the same one that I previously shared, and I think it's really, really, really important. Just share a struggle. Sorry. To share a struggle with a friend, because it'll have to struggle, and to tell a friend your joy and it'll double the joy. And it's not necessarily a friend. It can be literally anyone. It can be your pets. Like I previously said in this podcast, Chloe is my best friend. That's my Chihuahua, by the way.
I want to share another one just because it popped into mind. There's this great Charlie Chaplin quote. Love it. Life in close-up is a tragedy. In long shot, it's a comedy.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's really good. Wait.
Charlie Chaplin is smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. Again, tunnel visioned. Close-minded, tunnel-visioned. I say close-minded. Whenever you're like whatever grades, running, what have you. You feel like really like, no, that's what that's like. It's happening. I know it. Like I'm so right. You get close-minded. You don't even realize it, right? You almost refuse help. It's not that serious. No, yes, it is that serious. No, mom. You're like you do get.
I think he's speaking on personal experience.
You do get close-minded, and you're like, no, this is absolutely whatever. And again, like a lot of life can also feel like you're. In psychology, you'd say you've lost the locus of control, right? It's gone from internal to external. Life is coming at you, and it's just happening, and you're just like, oh my gosh, whatever.
Instead of with you.
Instead of life coming from you, right? And again, like with missing assignments or whatever, it feels like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. The teachers are giving me so many assignments. You do your assignments, you regain that internal locus of control. You run, you do an activity, you gain that internal locus of control because I am doing it and it's me and whatever. You gain perspective, right? If you look in long shot, you're doing it, right? It's not a teacher being like, by the way, you're taking your time, you're consciously doing it, you're being thoughtful, you're being mindful.
Very demure, I'm sorry.
Extremely. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you made it all this way, wow.
God bless.
Congrats. Thank you for listening or watching. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at selfsucceeding@gmail.com. That is spelled selfsucceeding@gmail.com. And you can follow our Instagram and DM us there at selfsucceeding, spelled exactly the same, which is selfsucceeding. That's our Instagram right there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, which I expect most people to too, because
That's
video
the only way
format,
you would be.
video format, you can comment down below. And
Well, thank you for being here with us, Jesus, and sharing your input on views of mental health, and giving a lot of advice, a lot of advice and medicine analogies too. But I think it's also a good thing because it's some people interpret it in different ways, and thank you for that, for your interpretation.
disclaimer, we are not professionals. We are teenagers who are here talking about our personal experiences and our ways of dealing and coping with mental health.
Yeah. Well, thank you
for joining us, Jesus. Great first guest. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah, and thank you. And comment, subscribe. Okay.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.